Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Now Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man. And joining me tonight is going to be Jeff Hilling. And we're going to talk about his newest book, American Bigfoot. He's going to be a couple of minutes before I can add him into the show. He's got something else going on at the moment. But let me remind everybody while we're waiting for Jeff that this Saturday we're going to be talking to Ellie Schiaviello, and he's going to be standing in for Dr. Lester Savage, and we're going to be discussing their book, Open Your Heart to the Magic of Love. And also, Frank Joseph, we was not able to get his show last night. When I called him right at showtime, he unfortunately had a sore throat. We did, however, manage to reschedule his show for this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m., which I have not put that down on the schedule yet. Well, I put it on the schedule, but not on the page. So it'll be Tuesday the 22nd at 7 p.m., and he assures me he thinks he'll feel much better by that time. Usually a sore throat does pass by then, so I'm really looking forward to that. And let me confirm over here on the schedule. Oh, no, wrong. Wonder I'm looking at June. Well, I got May 21st. So, yeah, make that Tuesday, May 21st. My apologies for any misunderstanding. Actually, for Wednesday the 22nd, I have planned Your Ultimate Life Plan with Jennifer Howard, but that has not been confirmed yet, so I still need to reach her. And if not, I'll try to have another guest, waiting to fill the spot. Also, while we're waiting to contact Jeff, I'm working on getting Steve Martin. He was the witness that saw Travis Walton when he got flashed with that beam from the UFO from the movie Fire in the Sky in the book. So he's had some past life or some regression therapies and had some memory, and he's talked to me about it on Facebook, and I'm working on getting him on, but that's going to probably be in July. In the meantime, let's give Jeff a call and see if he's ready yet. Hello, Jeff. I seem to be having a little trouble getting a hold of him. It quit ringing for some reason, folks. Well, bear with me while I check into this. I think I got him. I think we got disconnected. Well, I'm trying to get him.
Are you there?
Yeah, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, I was just trying to answer your line, and for some odd reason, the box where I clicked more to add you to the conversation just disappeared from out in front of my very eyes.
The modern wonders of modern technology. What can you say, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. So, Jeff, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Royce. It's great to be back on your fine program. It's been a while, but hey, I love being on the paranormal show you got here.
Oh, well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you here. I think you've been on twice now in the past, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're becoming good friends, so I dig it. I love this show. You got a lot of good guests coming in, and you're attracting a lot of fine quality people and speakers and authors and all kinds of good stuff. So, keep up the good work.
Right. Now, I got a new listener in tonight that don't usually come to the show, so I'm kind of typing to him in the chat room when we talk, trying to make sure he gets, the player working okay. How it is when you first do it for the first time, you can have a little mistake going on. But in the meantime, why don't you tell us about your newest book? Give us kind of a brief summary on the American Bigfoot.
Yes, I got a brand new book out in follow-up to my last book, which you had me on for, which was the Great Bigfoot Film Mystery. The brand new book is called American Bigfoot, and it is it's doing real well, and it's getting a lot of really good reviews, and people are really digging it. It's a book that covers all things Bigfoot, what's real, what isn't, what's theory, what's speculation, and what's just downright BS. And it goes over all these things. And I even bring some new theories to the table of the world of Bigfoot, and discuss some real possibilities of where some of this Bigfoot stuff came from. And I also got on the avenue of a lot of different things we'll get into, I'm sure, as your show goes on here.
Okay. Well, that was one of the things I was going to get around to talking to you about because, well, as you know, I've had my show for about roughly 6 years now, and you're not the only Bigfoot researcher I've talked to, and as you can imagine, I've heard more than one theory about, the Bigfoot creature, so I'd naturally be interested in hearing what you think.
Well, in order to get really into, buy the book American Bigfoot at pattersonfilm.com, but that'll give you a very in-depth look at it. But yeah, let's discuss some of this. I almost have to start some background before I can even really get into that, all my theory here.
And I didn't mean for you to give the whole book away now.
No, I didn't mean that either. I just mean it's kind of a broad topic. It's a very broad theory, and it takes a little while to get into, but I put it in a way that anybody can understand it, whether you're, not that brilliant or you're actually very intellectually astute. I think everybody will get something out of it. It's written in layman's terms, yet it's a very deep concept at the same time.
Okay, well, real quick, though, before you do go into it, because I got to talking and I almost forgot to mention, and you said it yourself, and I thank you for it. The website is www.pattersonfilm.com, and you can learn a lot more about all of his books there. He's had two of them, and this is his third one, if I'm not mistaken, and he can correct me if I am mistaken. And also, if you want to call in, the number is 832-632-7904, and you can also ask questions in chat. And go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry to interrupt you on that.
No problem. I appreciate the information you're bringing forth for the listeners. Yes, American Bigfoot. Basically, we start out in American Bigfoot with the Theodore Roosevelt accounts. Teddy Roosevelt, American president, had a very interesting tale that he told in one of his memoirs of an encounter that he had with an old trapper who he believed was telling him the truth, and it described a creature that sounds much like what we call Bigfoot nowadays. A very mysterious encounter, and I go into that in the first part of American Bigfoot, and then I go into some of the theories of Bigfoot and what it is, what it isn't, and I also take kind of a two-prong approach. So this book is for the people who are hardcore believers. This is a book for people who are on the fence. I don't know, not really sure if Bigfoot exists, and this is also a book written for those who are
hardcore believers.
Yeah, and hardcore skeptics even, because I take my approach in studying cryptids, Bigfoot, being a cryptozoologist, is I take a very neutral approach. In other words, I'm not your typical guy who's going to come on here and tell you that Bigfoot exists, or I'm not going to come out there and cheerlead the idea that, yeah, we're getting, Bigfoot is here and Bigfoot does this and Bigfoot does that. I'm a real researcher. I tell you where the truth is. I put my finger, my thumb, if you will, on the pulse of Bigfoot reality, and I discuss every avenue. I discuss it from also the kind of a skeptical point of view. What if Bigfoot never existed? I even go down that path and discuss, okay, let's assume for a minute that Bigfoot does not exist. What does that mean? That means, if you think about this is really creepy. That means that we've been having this mania, or what I call the psychological Sasquatch, invade the minds of millions of people for generations and generations. It is ongoing mania. And to me, that's even more bizarre and more frightening and more mysterious than if there just is an unknown ape-like creature out there. Because that stands to reason. If there's an unknown ape-like creature, we find it, well, that makes sense, okay. But what if there wasn't? We have a lot of people saying they're seeing this creature. We have a lot of people believing in this creature. We have a lot of people trying to track down this creature, and I'm being one of them. And this is a very mysterious phenomenon then. And I go into that too in my book, American Bigfoot too. I take the approach that what if he didn't exist? As well as, what if he, if he really does, what's the evidence and what might this creature actually be?
Which is the big $10,000 question right there. What might he be? Because, there was a guy named Thomas that came on my show once, and he had perhaps the most unique theory of all the researchers I've ever heard. And his comes straight out of the Bible. Anybody that ever read the story of Jacob and Esau and how the Bible described Esau as being a very hairy person, and he thought perhaps today's Bigfoot was the descendants of Esau.
Yeah, I've heard that theory, not by that gentleman, but I've heard other people discuss that as well. And I actually do in American Bigfoot mention the Esau account. However, I go into a little different spin on it. My spin on it is that the book is, I didn't say that Esau was a Bigfoot creature, an early rendition of it. My point of the whole thing was it was an early Bigfoot hoax, not a Bigfoot hoax, but an early type of hoax that we have accounted. That it was written that Esau had put, or Jacob had put hair on his arms to fool Isaac, his father, into giving him the patriarchal blessing. And he basically put hair on him because Esau was very hairy. So to me, it was almost like an early type of hoax. And I had just kind of mentioned that in American Bigfoot too, and I gave it a little different spin. I didn't go
That was pretty unique also.
Yeah, it is. If you really think about it, everybody keeps going back to that, that part of history and looking at it and going, wow, this is something here. But yeah, it was an early hoax. It is a very interesting one in that.
Well, you're aware of the fact, though, and I know you are, that even in today's world, you got great big wrestlers like the Great Khali and the Big Show, both being 7 feet tall plus. Very well, if they were all hairy and uneducated and wandering through the jungle, would be considered a Bigfoot. Isn't it possible that there's a unaccounted for species, an unfound species, much like the Hobbit, that would account for the Bigfoot?
Yes, absolutely. There's diseases out there, and I go into that on my website. If you go to pattersonfilm.com, I talk about Jojo the dog-faced boy, who was a hairy circus freak, if you will, back in I can't remember if it's the late 1800s, early 1900s, roughly that era. And he was a performer in a circus, and he had a disease called hypertrichosis, which is a disorder basically that where a person grows hair everywhere, including on their forehead, on their nose, and he looks just like Bigfoot. He looks just like, if I saw him roaming through the woods, and not just myself, I think anybody would think, there it is, there's Bigfoot. Is it possible that some of these early sightings that we read about in the historic accounts, is it possible that this might have been an ostracized person who had a disease, possibly from a tribe of Indians maybe? Because the Indians describe
Now, there's an
creature as
interesting
well.
theory in itself. A whole family, everybody in it has that same disorder, and they all
Sure,
descend with it.
Absolutely, it's a genetic thing. So, I mean, what if this thing was these people were ostracized and roaming through the woods, and people kept seeing these creatures and thinking, wow, it's big, or they call them the tribe of Bigfoots, or they have the name Sasquatch, and other different tribes had different terms for this type of creature. It's not just Sasquatch, but there's some minor Indian terms for it too. So that is one real possibility, that how in the Indian legends of Bigfoot that it may have actually gotten started.
That was another interesting factor, is the Indian connection. There's a researcher, I can't remember his name, was an Indian. This is a college person, too. Been researching Bigfoot for 50 years, living out in the woods with him. And I've had him on my show a couple of times, and after 6 years of doing so many guests, I can't bring up his because he's like 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been so long. But he was an Indian. He knew a lot about them. And I've also heard tell that you can go to a lot of the Native American tribes like the Cherokee and the Hopi, and their legends include almost like having them visit like neighbors from time to time.
Absolutely, and I go into the whole Indian legend thing in American Bigfoot. It's it was a very real thing to a lot of the tribes, and we get a lot of the stories and the starts and the beginning and of the creature here in North America from the Indian legends. And I go into a theory about that too, several theories actually, of what that could have been back in the Indian days. And the hypertrichosis thing is one, and another possibility is back in the days the Indians would sit around the fire at night. What did they do for entertainment? They didn't have television, they didn't have internet, they didn't really even have a lot of them didn't have written languages, So what they did is they had an oral tradition, and they would tell stories. They were a culture full of stories. And for entertainment, you had people who wrote basically fiction around the fire. Instead of reading books, you had a storyteller come out, and, you might make up stories. And I wouldn't doubt that it is a possibility that if you take the approach that, I'll put it to you this way, because in my book I take two approaches. Like, I'm not schizophrenic, but I do kind of jump in on out of, believer, non-believer. I do take different approaches. So for the non-believer approach, or at least for the Indian part of it, it is possible that a lot of this got started as an actual story. Whether it was real or not, you can debate that, and we don't really know. But, back then people used to have fun. We have this image of Indians always being these very stoic people and always stern and never doing anything fun and always fighting wars and all that. That's not the case. They were people too. They like to have fun. They like to laugh. They like to entertain people. It's possible that a generation started out telling stories of a hairy man in the woods. And, another thing is that it's a very easy creature to imitate, too, if you want to scare the kids around the fire. I mean, you got bear fur, and you can have a person put it over them and, and scare them at the end of the story, just like we do, basically, when we're sitting around campfires. There you got your origin of Bigfoot, possibly. And it could have just been a story. Like we have Harry Potter, we have Curious George. I said in my book, American Bigfoot, maybe they called it Harry George. We don't know. But these things are a very real possibility. And then once one culture and one generation has a legend or a story, maybe they have this ongoing story of Bigfoot in the woods, maybe it's a series. Every once a week they tell a new story about the hairy monster. Well, then the next generation comes along, and then they hear about what their their elders used to.
Are you still there?
Hear.
Okay, I thought I lost you for a minute.
Stories about, and then maybe the next generation hears about it, and then all of it's no longer a legend. Maybe now, a few generations removed, what was once legend becomes truth now. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
A lot of times when oral things are might have been like just an oral tradition, and then it gets passed on 3 generations later. What that generation knew to be fiction, 3 generations later believed it is a fact. That's a very real possibility because, you know, when you don't have the history of it, you don't know where these stories came from, and sometimes these things get muddled about, and then, you know, then it makes it over to the white man culture, and then all of a sudden, you know, that's a possibility too. Maybe the Indians are just playing with the white people, you know.
But the
Europeans are like, you know, yeah, you sit around, smoke a peace pipe, and say, hey, you know, let me tell you about Bigfoot. You know, who knows? That is a very real possibility. And then, you know, Indians today will talk about the legends, but you know, they weren't there personally. They don't know personally. So I mean, there's a lot of things that come out of storytelling and legends and oral traditions that have a way from flipping and flopping from fact to fiction, and vice versa too.
Are you still there, Jeff?
I'm here.
Okay, I thought you fell silent for a minute. This connection I've noticed is drug a couple of times for some reason. I don't know if it was the rain today or what, but so I just waiting and seeing what's happening with it. Listen, by the way, while you were talking, I happen to remember who that person was. It was Kiwani Lapicertus. He was the author of Psychic Sasquatch and the UFO Connection.
Okay, yeah, I have not heard of him, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I do a lot of research, but you know, a lot of, you know, there's certain books I guess I don't go into just because of you know, I don't know any. You know, I'm more of a down to earth researcher when it comes to the world of Bigfoot. I don't go into answering mysteries with other mysteries, if you will. I try to keep things real because we don't know about a lot of those things, and then when you add to those the equation, then it just gets more confusing. That's my personal take on my research.
Right. Well, yeah, I was going to ask, have you ever done any actual field research or spotted a Bigfoot yourself?
Oh yes, I've done plenty of field research, absolutely, and I've done. I'm out there. You know, I've been out there quite a long time, a few years now, and then I've not spotted one, but let me put it this way: I've heard things and caught glimpses of things that I can't explain. Okay, I've recorded very bizarre, strange sounds that are my own sounds that I've recorded out in the wilderness here. I've had a mysterious, you know, tracks I've seen and unexplainable things that have been broken, you know, that some people might attribute to Bigfoot. However, I'm not going to jump to that conclusion because I'm a very level-headed researcher, if you will. I don't automatically grandstand and put stuff out there so people can start thinking it's Bigfoot. This is my own independent research. You know, the point of finding evidence to me is not so I can give you a cast and show you another plaster cast or play a sound and play it for you or, you know, tell you a story. I could do those things, certainly, but at the same time, what good does it do? You know, the evidence is there to point us towards the creature. And I always encourage people, if they're finding tracks out there, you know, what's the first thing that most people do nowadays when they find a track?
I usually make a cast of it.
Exactly. They make a cast of it. I would like to tell people, if you are out there and you find a track, the first thing you should do is follow the tracks. I mean, we're there to find the creature. We're not there to find the evidence. The evidence is supposed to point us to the creature. Follow the trail and go get yourself a Bigfoot, okay? Another plaster cast is not going to add much to research. It's not going to do anything, really. I mean, it's a cool conversation piece, and yeah, go back and take a cast later, absolutely. But a lot of people, I believe, are in this nowadays just to, you know, maybe find evidence or drum up evidence, and I go into that as well in American Bigfoot. I go into who's really part of this Bigfoot scene. You know, you have a big mix of people in this world of cryptozoology, people looking for mysterious creatures, particularly, you know, Bigfoot's the big one right now. So who's really in this? Who are these people? What's their motives?
Right.
Not everybody's in this for the same reason. Now, but it's a scene that is very mixed of a very bunch of different types of people. Kind of like when you go to a baseball game, you find out that people are there for different reasons. Some people are there to play the baseball game, they're players. Some people are there to be spectators. Some are rabid fans. Some are not so much. Some just got free tickets, had nothing better to do. Some people are there to sell hot dogs. Some people are there to find a date. Some people are there to get drunk. Not everybody at a baseball stadium is there for the same reason. They have different motives. And that's kind of what the world of Bigfoot's like. Everybody who's in this field is not necessarily on the level. Some are in it just for fun, and that's fine. Some of our people are in it to deceive others. Some are in it to make money.
Some are in it just for an adventure.
Yeah, and some are just wanting to sightsee, and I don't have a problem with that. And some are in it to do real research, and some are wanting to actually find this creature and catch it somehow. So you have a big mix of people in there, and it creates a very it's very difficult when you have such a popularity of a subject to try to weed through all the real versus the fake versus the mistaken evidences. It becomes very difficult as a researcher to do that and to really, if I give you, it's kind of like saying, if I give you one piece of truth and I give you 9,900 either false leads or lies, what are the odds of you actually finding the right lead there and following that one?
Well, plus by the time you snuck a lie in, I'm not going to want to believe the truth.
Well, right, that too. It's when you have all these, you go up on YouTube or you hear I just read something today on the news that somebody shot Bigfoot. Okay, I looked at the picture. Yeah, that's a fake. Okay, it's another costume. I believe that was on, it's kind of a bizarre website. I can't remember the name of it.
Wasn't too long ago, somebody got run over by a car wearing a Bigfoot suit, trying to, because the news on Bigfoot had been dead for a while, trying to stir up some, people talking about it, in other words, by pretending to be Bigfoot and got hit by a car.
Yes. In fact, I covered that same incident in American Bigfoot, the book. I talk about that. A man was in a ghillie suit, one of those combat, military camouflage deals. And they were running around, I assume, trying to hoax, stir inside a hoax. I don't know if we ever got to the bottom of that. And supposedly, according to the news reports, alcohol was involved. And these kind of things happen, and this is how some of these sightings come about. From what I remember, that story he was trying to incite some, maybe make some people have some reports.
Right, exactly.
Calling into the police or whatever, saying that, they saw Bigfoot. And that's crazy.
Well, what happened to him was pretty crazy.
But here, that's the effect of it's what I call the psychological Sasquatch. These things are in effect. Bigfoot is huge right now. I mean, Bigfoot is not going away anytime soon. This is bigger than it was in the 70s when, after the Patterson film was released in late 67. What it did is it created, and things moved a little slower back then. We didn't have the internet. We had 4 channels on TV, and that was it. One of them was PBS. It took a little while to get going, but in the 70s, from that film, we stirred up a huge pop culture that was unbelievable. You had Bigfoot was showing up in the $6 Million Man. He was showing up on little cartoons. He was showing up in, everywhere.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, then in the 80s it kept going. It was a little bit of a lull in the 90s, and then all of a sudden now he's back with a vengeance. We got shows and documentaries and Bigfoot and all this stuff, and I like all that stuff. It's fun, it's great. But here's the deal: when art and pop culture, and I'm just as guilty of this. I write books. I just wrote a fiction book called Bigfoot Booyah, but it stirs up when you get a lot of fans of certain things.
When I called him right at showtime, he unfortunately had a sore throat. We did, however, manage to reschedule his show for this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m., which I have not put that down on the schedule yet. Well, I put it on the schedule, but not on the page. So it'll be Tuesday the 22nd at 7 p.m., and he assures me he thinks he'll feel much better by that time. Usually a sore throat does pass by then, so I'm really looking forward to that. And let me confirm over here on the schedule. Oh, no, wrong. Wonder I'm looking at June. Hello, Jeff. I seem to be having a little trouble getting a hold of him. It quit ringing for some reason, folks. Well, bear with me while I check into this. Well, I got May 21st. So yeah, make that Tuesday, May 21st. My apologies for any misunderstanding. Actually, for Wednesday the 22nd, I have planned the Ultimate Life Plan with Jennifer Howard, but that has not been confirmed yet, so I still need to reach her. And if not, I'll try to have another guest, waiting to fill the spot. Also, while we're waiting to contact Jeff, I'm working on getting Steve Martin. He was the witness that saw Travis Walton when he got flashed with that beam from the UFO from the movie Fire in the Sky in the book. So he's had some past life or some regression therapies and had some memory, and he's talked to me about it on Facebook, and I'm working on getting him on, but that's going to probably be in July. In the meantime, let's give Jeff a call and see if he's ready yet. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Now Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man. And joining me tonight is going to be Jeff Hilling. And we're going to talk about his newest book, American Bigfoot. He's going to be a couple of minutes before I can add him into the show. He's got something else going on at the moment. But let me remind everybody while we're waiting for Jeff that this Saturday we're going to be talking to Ellie Schiaviello, and he's going to be standing in for Dr. Lester Savage, and we're going to be discussing their book, Open Your Heart to the Magic of Love. And also, Frank Joseph, we was not able to get his show last night.